Hello, everyone, and welcome to another podcast of Bearkat Views on Higher Education. My name is Stella Vay, and my topic of discussion is undocumented students and how institutions engage with this group of people. A little bit of background information. So, with immigration policy being a big topic nowadays due to the election, many people have overlooked the small subgroup of people, and that would be the undocumented students in the United States. So, who's considered an undocumented student? These would be people who are not a U.S. citizen, that do not hold a current permanent resident visa, and have not been granted permission to the country through longer term residence or work permit programs. Approximately 11.5 million people who live in the U.S. are considered undocumented immigrants, and over 65,000 undocumented students graduate from American high schools each year. Many people who fall under this subgroup of undocumented students came here with their parents when they were young and have been a part of the American education system for years. They've grown up in this country side by side with U.S. citizens and consider themselves U.S. citizens regardless of having the paper or not. Some of these people don't even realize they're considered undocumented until they go get their driver's license or apply for jobs. Undocumented students have limitations when it comes to applying for college. Although there is no federal law that prohibits institutions from admitting undocumented students, some institutions will restrict admissions just to legal residents. During the application process, the students might need to have proof of legal residency. If they get past admissions, then the student will be concerned with the financial burden of paying for college. These students do not qualify for most forms of financial aid. When it comes to federal and most state-based financial aid, in order to qualify, it requires the students to be either a U.S. citizen or permanent legal resident. Not many states offer state-funded financial aid. As of 2015, only California, Minnesota, New Mexico, Oregon, Texas, and Washington allow undocumented students to receive state financial aid. Many public institutions require undocumented students to pay out-of-state tuition. These students can't even gain lawful employment during their time in college as well as after they graduate because they don't have the necessary papers. Money is the central reason as to why undocumented students choose not to attend a post-secondary institution. The federal government has installed some legislation in regards to immigration. One of the first laws concerning educational equality was Plyler versus Doe. The results of this case allowed undocumented students to have access to free public education from grades K through 12. In an attempt to reform immigration, the United States instated the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act, or IIRA, as well as the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act, or PRWORA. Both of these acts essentially changed the federal social welfare and health benefits for undocumented students. The IIRIRA actually denies higher education benefits for undocumented students if these benefits were not awarded to U.S. citizens as well. Moving on, we have the Development, Relief, and Education for Alien Minors, or DREAM Act, which was introduced in 2001 in hopes that it would solve the national predicament for all undocumented students. It allowed undocumented students to obtain legal status through a two-step process. In the first step, individuals could obtain a conditional legal permanent resident status by entering the U.S. at 16 years or younger and have at least 5 consecutive years of residency, or having a high school diploma or equivalent degree, or being admitted to a higher education institution in the U.S. The second step would be gaining full-fledged legal permanent resident status by meeting at least one of the 3 following requirements: acquiring a degree from a 2-year institution or vocational school, completing at least 2 years in a bachelor's or higher degree program, or serving in the U.S. Armed Forces for at least 2 years. If discharged early, the individual must have received honorable discharge. Currently, the DREAM Act is still sitting in legislation after failing to pass the Senate after many revisions. Following the DREAM Act, we have the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals Program, or DACA. This program stops the deportation of young undocumented immigrants and provides them with work permits. However, this program does not grant a path to permanent legal status. DACA applies to immigrants who comes to the U.S. before they were 16 years of age and younger than 30 years of age as of 2012. They need to have lived in the U.S. for at least 5 years and be high school graduates or military veterans in good standing. So while the federal legislation has an impact on undocumented students, state legislation has a greater impact due to each state's stance on tuition and fees, which is the main reason why undocumented students choose not, undocumented students choose either to attend or not attend colleges. So this map shows which states allow in-state tuition, out-of-state tuition, and more. The yellow states have laws providing in-state tuition. The brown states have laws that provide in-state tuition as well as state financial aid. The blue states offer in-state benefits depending on the university. The dark green states right here offer in-state tuition to citizen students with unauthorized parents, and the olive green states deny in-state benefits, whether that's only allowing out-of-state tuition for undocumented students or denying admissions completely to undocumented students. Undocumented students who pay in-state tuition save an average of $8,249 each year compared to the students who pay out-of-state tuition. At least 18 states provide in-state tuition rates. To date, none of the states that offer in-state tuition have been found to be in violation of IIRIRA or PRWORA. Most of these states do require that the undocumented students meet certain requirements, such as graduating from a state high school or attending the state high school for 2 to 4 years, having a high school diploma or a GED, or completing or turning in an affidavit that states that the student is pursuing permanent resident status. So essentially, citizens who aren't residents of these states can apply for in-state tuition if they qualify. We have 3 states that deny in-state tuition, meaning that they charge out-of-state tuition for undocumented students, as well as 2 states that completely deny admissions to undocumented students. Denying in-state tuition benefits to undocumented students effectively could deny them the opportunity to attend college altogether, as many, if not most, undocumented students come from lower income families that just can't afford the out-of-state tuition rates. I believe essentially we shouldn't hinder students' access to education. Many of these students are first-generation college students, and they're just looking for ways to support their families without having to endure the hardships that their parents have. I can definitely speak from experience, first-generation college student. Both my parents don't have degrees and have worked tremendously hard just to provide for me so that I can, pursue my education so that I don't have to work as hard as they do. So some of the benefits of acquiring easier access to higher education for undocumented students would be it's an economic advantage for the United States. As we can read on this slide, the U.S. Department of Labor found that the wages of immigrants who received legal status under the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986 had increased roughly by 15% 5 years later. A 1999 RAND study found that although raising the Hispanic college graduate rate to the same level as that of non-Hispanic whites would increase spending on public education. These costs would be more than offset by savings in public health and welfare expenditures and increased tax revenues resulting from higher incomes, as well as it'll help fill the growing demand for high-skilled workers. 9 out of 15 occupations, which the Bureau of Labor Statistics expects to grow at least twice as fast as the national average, require an associate degree or higher. 4 of these occupations, immigrants are accounted for a significant share of the workers in 2005. Um, of the medical scientists, 46% of them were immigrants. Computer software engineers, 35%. Database administrators, 21%. And post-secondary teachers, 20%. By educating ourselves in social justice of immigration as well as any other topic, we will be able to achieve equity in higher education. As higher education professionals, we are here to serve every student on campus, including undocumented students. We need to understand the laws and policies, specifically admission, tuition, and financial aid policies, to provide the support these students need. By familiarizing ourselves with the laws and policies, we'll be able to assess their immediate situations and figure out ways to assist students. One of the best ways to serve undocumented students is by becoming an advocate for them, by letting them know that, yes, they deserve the right to attend college just like everyone else. This doesn't, um, and this as this quote says, it goes beyond the basic service of informing oneself of the local law and policy and demonstrating to undocumented students the importance of struggling in their quest for educational opportunities. It's also about engaging in activities that can have a positive effect on these students, whether that's writing to our state's legislature like about all the amazing things that undocumented students do, um, and everything like that. So this page is a list of resources of different organizations and websites that might be helpful to student affairs professionals, um, specifically those who work with undocumented students. And these are the references I used for this presentation. Thank you all for listening. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.